years since President Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth. His assassination came just 5 days after Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox. The ceremony signaled the end of the bloody Civil War that had consumed Lincoln's presidency. His death rocked the nation. Bill Plante is inside Ford's Theater in Washington, where the deadly shot was fired. Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Nora. This theater is the site of one of the greatest dramas of American history. It played out not here on the stage, but up there in that box. That's where President Abraham Lincoln was shot. His legacy, abolishing slavery, preserving the Union, still, all these years later, inspires the nation.
This was the Cody Ward of Ford's Theater. And
Professor Alan Guelzo has devoted his life to studying President Lincoln.
Lincoln's death generates the greatest what-if question of all time for Americans. What if Lincoln had lived?
Lincoln's assassination plunged a nation already on edge into uncertainty. Millions mourned as his body was taken back home to Illinois for burial. They lined the tracks to pay their respects. Today in Illinois, history is being rebuilt. Dave Clokey is restoring one of the nation's lost treasures, the funeral car that carried the fallen president on that sorrowful journey.
He didn't want to ride in it during the war with all the people getting killed, and he thought it was too fancy. Would have been the Air Force One of the day.
Instead, Lincoln's first journey aboard was to his final resting place. From Washington, along the East Coast, through the Great Lakes to Springfield, 180 cities in 7 states. The rail car was destroyed in a 1911 fire.
It's going to hang like this.
Forgotten until Dave Clokey and a group of volunteers brought it back, from history to reality, using historical blueprints to recreate the original car. Now the carpet is in, the wood polished, and the original oil lanterns waiting to be hung.
It's really come together, and I had a lot of good people help with it. It was like somebody was watching out for us, you know, we got it done. That looks good.
He did it so people could know, could remember what happened 150 years ago.
People are not paying that much attention to history anymore. They kind of forgot about it, and we should remember the history of the country and why things are like they are.
To help us remember that history, Ford's Theater is displaying memorabilia from the day Lincoln was shot. It's the first time all these items have been together since that night. His top hat, a blood-stained American flag used to prop up Lincoln's head. The contents of his pockets.
There's a handkerchief, there's 2 pair of glasses. One of them, you can tell, he repaired himself with a piece of string.
Even the murder weapon itself. It's amazing that this is the actual pistol used to assassinate the president.
It's so small. It's only a .44 caliber, and yet this one small weapon caused so much damage, so much grief.
All that was needed to kill the man, but not his legacy. How did what happened up there in that box that night change the course of U.S. history?
What failed and began to fail that night is something which got played out through all the long history of segregation, of Jim Crow, of discrimination, of bigotry. We still struggle with that today. We are still dealing with the after effects of the death of Abraham Lincoln.
So what might have been different had Lincoln lived? Well, for one thing, he gave a speech 4 days before he died in which he said that he approved of the idea of the vote for some of the freed slaves. Whether or not he could have accomplished that, he did leave a moral example for the ages. Gail?
Yeah. It is. It raises interesting questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And to see that gun is chilling. Yeah, always about history. You're right, Charlie. Thank you, Bill.